back in January of 2022. I was out in Breckenridge, Colorado with my husband and my youngest daughter, and we were skiing. And I fell, and in normal daughterly fashion, my daughter was taking a picture of me and Snapchatting it to her sister.
Nice.
That was back in Wisconsin, like, ha ha ha, mom down, but I wasn't getting up this time.
Uh-oh.
What had happened was I ended up breaking my tibia, my fibia, and also fracturing my ankle. And so I had to
Oh,
be tobogganed off, the mountain, ended up having surgery and, a rod and screws and all of these things. So I left with a whole bunch of hardware.
you're listening to Midlife Strategies for Badass Women, the no BS podcast for women over 40 who are sick of playing by someone else's rules. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, badass midlife strategist, truth teller, and professional fire starter for midlife reinvention. Around here, we don't do fluff. We do real talk, bold strategies, and badass breakthroughs. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's your damn power move. If you're all in, unapologetic, and ready to reinvent, let's get started. Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome to the newly rebranded podcast, formerly known as A Life Worth Being, is now Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. And today, my guest is no exception. She is a supreme business badass. So I cannot wait to bring her on. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Kim Rogne, who is a high energy keynote speaker, business coach, and #1 best-selling author who helps high achieving women and leadership teams thrive without burnout. And that is no easy task, let me tell you right now. After 25 years leading top producing real estate brokerages, which we were talking about before we came on air, Kim founded For the Love Of, otherwise known as Flow, a personal and professional development company that hit 6 figures in its first year. She's now spoken on over 30 podcasts, led trainings for leadership teams, and delivered keynote speakers to audiences of over 350 people. Through her signature coaching framework, relatable style, and action-packed resources, Kim inspires ambitious professionals to lead boldly, live intentionally, and grow with joy. Flow's mission is simple: inspire, empower, and promote action. Kim, hello and welcome to the show.
Okay, Sue. I am so excited to be here, and I just love the new name of your podcast.
Thank
That's so
you. Thank
amazing.
you. I'm so excited about it. And I know that you're going to fit in perfectly because you are a badass. So let's go inspire the rest of the badasses out there, shall we?
Let's do it.
Well, before we got on the show, we were talking about our kind of similar backgrounds in real estate and so on and so forth. You in a more of a management role, and but I've been in real estate for over a decade, and I also teach real estate agents, and they are a unique bunch of individuals for sure. So I give you a lot of credit for managing them.
Yes, we were kind of laughing. I was saying, oh, it's just like a kindergarten class, right? They all want to have their awards, their gold stars, and at the same time have nap time. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
let's do it.
Well, and it's funny because as you know, I do teach initial licensing, right, for
Yeah,
unlicensed new agents, and it's so cute. I mean, they're adorable. They come in and they're all shiny and new, and they're like, why do you want to be a real estate agent? I want to help people. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, well, we'll work on that. But it's so great because I love their energy. I mean, they're so positive, and they're not. I've worked with some agents that have been in the business 40 some odd years and whatever, and it's like, jaded much, but it's all good. It's all good. I
yeah.
love the field. So, all right, enough about that. Let's talk about you. After you're being in the real estate business and managing high producing brokerages, what made you? What happened? Right? What made you shift and go into coaching now, right? That's what I'm
Right.
curious about
Yeah,
because
my groom of 27 years is still asking that question. So yes.
I love it. You call it your groom of okay, so I'm a horse person, I just gotta say this. And when you say groom, I think about somebody who takes care of your horse. I'm assuming you mean your husband, right?
I do. I say that because
Okay.
I want him to refer to me as his bride all the time
Oh,
versus,
that's sweet.
like, the wife or whatever, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, honestly, really what had happened so yes, coming from the background of being in real estate, the first 15 years I was in sales, so I knew what that
Mhm.
felt like, and then the last 10 years in a CEO position where I was broker managing multi-million dollar brokerages, and the last
Yeah.
brokerage I left had 183 associates and
Oof, that's a
6
lot.
staff members.
Yeah.
And really what had happened was back in January of 2022, I was out in Breckenridge, Colorado with my husband and my youngest daughter, and we were skiing. And I fell, and in normal daughterly fashion, my daughter was taking a picture of me and Snapchatting it to her sister. That was
Nice.
that was back in Wisconsin, like, "Ha ha ha, mom down," but I wasn't getting up this time.
Uh-oh.
What had happened was I ended up breaking my tibia, my fibia, and also fracturing my ankle, and so I had to
Oh.
be tobogganed off, the mountain, ended up having surgery and, a rod and screws and all of these things. So I left with a whole bunch of hardware. But
Mm.
really what had happened is I was literally forced to slow down after 25 years of constant, I would say, movement and drama. And, when you're in a managerial role, especially in an industry where everybody is really employed no matter what. It's very different when you're leading a group of individuals that technically could go work anywhere. And so your job is to coach and teach them and, empower them to run profitable businesses so that they want to stay under your brokerage because when you have a license, you can go work anywhere. So it's a
Yeah.
very unique type of position. But when you're in that position, and unfortunately, the industry, as much as I coach to, taking a day off. I want my people to take a day off.
Yeah.
That industry doesn't take a day off. And so I only knew how to be infiltrated in their worlds in the drama of being the fixer all the time and so on. And so during the forced slowdown and knocking on the door of age 50, I don't know what happens when we turn 50. Something happens where we get, kind of a little
Yeah.
internal and introspective. And I was just like, is this what I want to do with the second half of my best life? And so I ended up giving a 2-month notice at the end of 2022, and I knew coaching would be a part of it. I didn't know exactly what my company would look like. I just knew because I had always been doing that, and because I also, to be quite honest and to be a badass, I needed to make money because I had 2
Yeah.
kids in college, and so that's where For the Love of started. That's the sit-down conversation with my groom of 27 years saying, "Honey, I have an idea. I know I've been on a salary for 10 years with benefits, but I'm gonna go back to, like, making my own unpredictable money." So, that's how it
Yeah.
started.
I love it, and I totally applaud that. I mean, I when I was in corporate America in training in instructional design and all of that, walking away from a six-figure career and to go into real estate as an independent salesperson, it's a big switch, and I love that. And I want to dig a little bit deeper into your whole thought process and how the people that you serve now in your coaching practice, and I want to know more about your tools and your techniques and all of that in flow. Um, why you think that this, and you sort of said it, but I want to talk more about like when women reach a certain age, why is that a good time to, start reevaluating and saying, is this really what I want to do for act two or three or four or whatever, wherever you are? So,
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think it's first of all, really slowing down. I always like to say the line of we have to slow before we go. And
mhm,
we're in a world where we don't have a whole lot of slowdown. And also depending on what your lifestyle is, whether you've got young children, whether you don't, whether you're busy with your hobbies, whether you're in corporate or, we're just constantly moving a million miles an hour now today. And so sometimes the brilliance can come in the slowdown of really asking yourself, what do I want to do? One, and also what am I good at? Right? Like
Mhm.
it's called ikigai, if you've heard of that
Yeah, absolutely,
before,
yes. Yeah.
right? And it's the whole what am I good at? What can I make money at? And it's pulling all of that together, right? How can we pull that all together? And I don't know. Um, for me, being married and having kids, I didn't really think about those things when they were 2 and 4 or 6 and 8 or 13, but yeah, I am in a different phase of my life now. And now
Mhm.
I am having more solitude. I am able to think in the morning, and so it may just be the phase of your life you're in because of that, because now you do have more time to think and gain clarity on, well, what else could I do?
Yeah, and I love what you said about you have to get quiet. And I think that, when you're either raising a family or you're in a career or you're doing both, uh, that you don't have a lot of quiet time. You don't have a lot of time to be introspective and to think about those things or have those things even bubble up. Because I do think that when we do have the ability and the time and the space to get quiet, things come to the surface because they're there. They've always been there. And they're just like, okay, can I, it's like the crocuses in the Seattle area in January. They're poking their little heads out like, is it time to come out yet? But when you have the opportunity to get quiet, then you can be a little bit more introspective and curious about the things that bubble up. Have you, it sounds like that's sort of what happened to you. You were forced into being quiet and slowing
Correct.
down.
And I'm not gonna pretend like it wasn't already kind of gnawing. Like, I knew probably for the last 12 months I heard the whispers, right? But didn't
Mhm.
take time to let the whispers speak. Um, so for sure, that was definitely happening. I think too is when we talk about burnout, right? Or less joy or less engagement or less fulfillment in what we're doing in our careers or in our businesses, I believe that can also be a sign. That can be a sign of, ooh, maybe either A, I need to shift on what I'm doing, or maybe I need to do something differently because we do spend so much time in our craft. And why would
Mhm.
we not want to also feel it is a feeling feel that joy and that engagement. And I mean, I'm not going to pretend not every minute of my life is as joy filled as this interview that you and I are having right now, right? I still got to do the things like,
Absolutely.
balance the profit and loss statement or look at the numbers. But overall, if you are currently listening to this and you're kind of thinking to yourself, yeah, I don't feel fulfilled anymore. That's when the slowdown can happen, or that's when you want to make the forced slowdown for yourself. You
Mhm.
don't need to break your leg to do it though. And think about, okay, what else could I do? So,
Yeah. Yeah. And so the same thing for me, it would be like, Sunday afternoon would roll around and I'd be like, oh geez, Margie, I gotta go into the office tomorrow, and then I get there and I'm like, you walk in the building and there's people that have been there. I worked for a big um, airplane manufacturer. Okay, we won't mention any names, but there's people there that have been there for 40, 50 years. I'm like, oh my God, I'd rather poke my eyes out with a sharp stick because, I just, the life would get sucked out of me as soon as I walked in the door on Monday morning. And I'm like, and I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And I'm amazed that I lasted in corporate America for as long as I did. I had a lovely career, mostly in tech, and it was fun ish, I say
right,
ish,
right.
but it
And
was
you
a means
wouldn't be where
to an
you are
end.
today without that
Yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah,
And so,
exactly. Exactly. So that's the other piece, and I'm glad you mentioned that because people don't realize or women don't realize that all of the things that they've experienced in their whatever it was, even if they were raising a family, which
yes,
is, oh, by the way, harder than having a job. But all of those pieces, they have so much life experience
Yep.
that's transferable, and because I think a lot of people discount that, like, oh, I was just a mom, or oh, I was just a whatever. If it's either that or their identity is so wrapped up in that thing, whatever they were, that they don't know how to be any other way. Are you
Mhm.
finding that with your
Yeah, for
clients?
sure. Yeah, and that is what a lot of my coaching clients say. Sometimes when we're getting on a session, that is the time that they slow down, right?
Yeah,
And it's not necessarily that right away we're solving a challenge, right? Or
right.
they've lost a staff member, now they need to hire, or what's the next, playbook they need to make, or operation system, or how do they use AI, or whatever. Those are all the tactical things. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's like, okay, everything's going great. Now, well, as long as I have you for 30 minutes, now let's ask some questions, right?
Yeah.
What does give you energy? What does give you joy? If you could wave the magic wand without any judgment or comparison and do anything, what would that be? And sometimes it's not even about changing careers. You know, this is hard for me as an entrepreneur, and I've had to teach myself this because I feel like whenever I come across something that I'm energetic about, I think I need to create a business.
I hear
My
you.
my
I've done it a
mother-in-law
lot.
made me a crown one year out of wine corks, right? Because I used to drink a lot of wine. I don't so much anymore because I can't sleep now because 'cause I'm over 50. But right away, my brain went to, "Oh, I drink a lot of wine. How could we build a business and make all these wine cork crowns for birthdays," right? So, it's also not everything
Ah.
has to be about making money, right? And so sometimes I have to do a self check and say, do, how could I go to yoga and actually enjoy yoga and not get my yoga certification and actually now be a yoga instructor? Because I almost did that once too.
Oh my god,
So,
you sound like me. I can't even stand it. Like, am I talking to myself here or what?
So, but that's awareness, right? Especially
Yeah.
if you have the entrepreneurial brain. If you have the
Yep.
entrepreneurial brain, you're always trying to 10x everything.
Mhm.
And so it's just really taking a moment because, you know, so so many times, so many people are just walking through life and not really living life.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's why my tagline is, "Awaken a life worth being." You're not living, or you're living it,
yeah,
you're going through the motions, you aren't being. You aren't
right.
being in your own life. You're not participating, you're just doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, that's my biggest, when we talk about even just my mission, inspire and empower, but it's also promote action because we
Mhm.
can be here listening and somebody's maybe listening and they're getting, these little goosebumps and these butterflies of, oh yeah, I'm gonna go make some, belts out of wine corks. I don't know, it's already been done. I've researched it, by the way. But anyway, whatever it might be that's inspiring you right now,
Yeah.
it's also about the then what are you going to do with that? Like,
Mhm.
what is one small step I can do to actually feel, joy, and I know I say that a lot because I'm training myself to use the word feel because
Mhm.
I am more of a pragmatic, like, how do we look at the numbers? How do we do whatever? But as a high performer, it's also about how do you want to feel as you accomplish this goal or you create this thing.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And with my coaching practice, and I work with horses, if you've been to my website, horses act as a feedback loop. And so when you are in the round pen or the arena with a 1,200-pound animal who is mirroring your behavior, you're like, okay. And when I ask someone what is coming up for you, and they say a word or a thought, and I said, no, 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 what are you feeling? Like, if
Hmm.
it's, anger, or if it's something else, I'm like, what does anger feel like in your body? And it really does take people a minute to, you know, be like, "Oh, I don't know." Well, let's explore that. You know what? Because like I said, before you have a reaction, or before something comes out of your mouth, right? Goes immediately up to your head and out your mouth or whatever, you feel it in your body. If someone interacts with you in a way that doesn't make you feel comfortable, you have some sort of response, some sort of visceral
Yes.
body level response. And if you can start to build that awareness around how is your body feeling? Where is the tightness? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Do you get tingling in your fingertips? Whatever it is, then you have those sensory reminders that, oh, okay, I can identify with that. That's kind of what happens when I start to feel angry about somebody. Somebody pushes your buttons or, pushes your boundaries or whatever. So yes, I love that you're like, how does that feel? Like, what does joy feel like? You talk about joy a lot. People
Yeah.
don't like, that they'll come to me, and I'm sure they come to you like, I don't know how to have fun. I don't know what joy feels like, or I don't know what joy is anymore.
I
How
love
do you
that,
get back to
Sue.
that?
And it
Yeah.
makes me think too, and I'm sure you hear this, the word balance.
Mhm.
So I speak a lot about balance and we talk a lot about balance, but I also think sometimes we're in balance and we don't realize it because we're actually not in tune or feeling. So, for
Mhm.
example, when we talk about balance and we first identify, like, well, what does it mean to you? Right. And somebody says, well, it means spending time with my family. Maybe it means, going to yoga or going for a walk or having a cup of coffee, in peace or whatever it might be. And then we start examining their day. And I'm like, okay, so when was the last time you did sit down and have dinner with your family? Well, yesterday. They'll be like, yesterday. Then maybe they'll say yesterday. I'll be
Yeah.
like, that's balance, right?
Yeah.
Now, we can be better at it. We can maybe set our phones aside, or maybe we could, all be at the kitchen table, not two of us at the breakfast bar,
Right.
two of us at the
Walking
kitchen
around
table.
the house
Right.
with a plate,
Right.
eating.
But the point is, I think that sometimes we actually have more balance than what we realize because we don't know when we're in it.
Right.
It's like it's also recognizing when you're actually in it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And sometimes, like, I feel like I have developed, and manufactured, created, whatever you want to call it, a life that fits me and that's where I want to be. And sometimes I wake up in the morning and my dogs are just like looking at me and they're running around and I'm like, I just love you guys so much. I just feel happy. My body feels happy. I have energy, and it's different. And when you can start to recognize, like you said, when you're in a more balanced flow state, things are going to go better, right? They're going to
mhm.
go a little bit smoother. You're not going to be stressing out about every little thing, and every tiny little thing that happens is not going to set you off and send you to the moon. Like, you spill your coffee and you're like, well, shit, guess I'll make another one, right? Not like, oh my God, my day is, right? 'Cause right?
Yeah.
Drama. Let's talk about drama, right? People love that drama. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I love horses, because they don't have that drama. They don't
Yeah.
they don't like they kick over their food bucket and they're like, "Well, I'll just eat it off the ground. I don't care." Right? They don't freak out
Yeah.
about it.
Love
Anyway,
that.
all right, enough about the horses. But I'd love to talk to you about, where did flow come from? For the love of. I say for the love of all the time, and I
Oh,
think it
yeah.
probably has a little different
For the
meaning than,
love of
but
mhm.
for the
We
love
can
of
make this,
whatever. Yeah.
X-rated if we'd like.
So where did that come from?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a journey, just like anybody who starts a business or
Mhm.
rebrands or whatever it might be. So when I first started, um, January 1st, 2023, right? I'm like, what am I gonna do? I started with For the Love of Coaching. That's what it started with.
Okay.
And little by little, what had happened as I was marketing and sending out value add emails, I would change the subject line all the time. It would be, for the love of balance, for the love of systems. And I kept filling in the blank, right? And I just always
Mhm.
started with for the love of. And then I was like, wait a second, why do we have to have anything there? Why can't I allow those people who come into my world or they hear me speak or right now they're listening, they get to fill in the blank and it can
Yeah.
change. And so that's how it ended up just being for the love of. I also like to think ahead. I was also thinking ahead of, well, if I publish something, which I did for the love of self, it allows me to literally for the love of inspiration, for the love of others. It was also thinking a little bit
Yeah.
about branding And that is what happens. Literally, I'll go to a convention or go to a networking event and they'll print my name tag and it'll say Kim Rogne for the love of, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We missed a word." It also creates
You're like, nope, that's
conversation.
it.
I can be like, "You
Yeah.
didn't miss a word, girlfriend. You get to
Yeah.
fill in the blank for the love of what? Being a
Blank.
great mama, whatever it might
Yeah.
be, starting a business." And so, I don't know, it's just kind of fun, and you could also make it X-rated if you want, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, for the love of, oof, rolling your eyes. And I love that. I love that you're thinking ahead because, I think we're like simpatico here, me and you. It's so because yeah, it can go anywhere. It's like the Dummies series, right? Dummy,
Yes!
blah blah for dummies, for the
I
love
love it.
of for dummies. Right? I'm just kidding,
Yeah.
but seriously, it could go anywhere. And I did that when I created a dog treat company, where it was like Etta
Mm.
Says was the name of it. And, there was like the division for food and the division for, accessories and,
Mhm.
all of this stuff, toys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Etta says play. Etta says this. So I love that, because you're an entrepreneur and you think like one. You think like, okay, how this has legs, where can it go? Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Fun.
so for the love of, tell me about for the love of.
Yes, for the love of fun. That's what I'm talking about now. And I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, that's my new I have it written here on a sticky. It says, "What was your
Nice.
fun win?" So I'm really
I love it.
challenging people in my world, right, to
Yeah.
ask themselves right now, today, right, for the love of what would be fun. Or if we're in the middle of a project with our leadership team and we're all stressed out, I'm like, how can we make this more fun, people? Fun. So that's actually where for the love of is at the moment. But
Nice.
where we're going as a company, um, any women entrepreneurs, women leaders will appreciate this. When I started for the love of, for whatever reason, I was like all caught up in my head that everything had to be like very masculine. So I was just
Mm.
like, I'm going to call myself an executive coach. And I've got my journal here right now. It's black and it's red, and nobody will take me seriously in this unless I'm like, for the love of executive coaching.
Yeah.
And first of all, A, I am a woman. B, I have two daughters. Um, three, no, C, little by little, who I was attracting was women. So if I would
Mhm.
go and I would speak, women would come up to me and they'd be like, "Oh, that was so good. I love this." Or yes, I want
Mhm.
more of that. And so we're now changing it. I'm embracing my feminine. I'm embracing my feminine, and it's going to be a little bit more softer. And I'm embracing that, I'm speaking to women, right? Because as women, we can have both the feminine and the masculine, but we
Yeah,
can also be
absolutely.
proud that we are women. And
Mhm.
so that's just something new that we're doing. We should be out in about a month, like a whole rebrand. The flow of For the Love of Self is still the same. It's a journal to help you get your weekly setup, your daily mindset, and your end of the week slow down. The structure is the same. It's just, look at you. We're doing rebranding at the same time.
I love it. I love it.
So,
Yeah, and I love that you brought the, masculine and the feminine energy in because there definitely is a balance, and there's a time in coaching and just in general where and at yourself, when you are at the C level, or, and you're
mm,
a leader and you're an executive and whatever, and real estate is, at a certain level, there's a lot of women in real estate, but
yeah.
but there's also a lot of male energy in there. And I think that, in the boardrooms and in the C suites across America, women feel like they have to be more masculine
Hmm.
than in terms of their energy, to be taken seriously, just like you said. I mean, look at the when women run for president, what happens, right? I mean, they're over scrutinized because they're either, well, she's a bitch because she's
Yeah.
bossy and she's whatever, and oh, but if a man acts that way, it's perfectly acceptable. So I think women are strong women have a hard time,
Mhm.
like, how much do I have to dial this up, and how and can I still be a woman and be a strong woman. I think
Yeah.
so. I think it's good that you play with that energy and you bring it into your coaching as well.
Yeah. I use the line of, if I'm coaching a woman and they're having to have, like, maybe they're challenged with a confrontational conversation to have with a male boss or a male counterpart and getting a little overly emotional. That's what we do as women. That's also our gift, right? And so I'm like, write this down. Okay. You're going to speak like a man, but have a heart of a woman. Speak
Mhm.
like a man, meaning with confidence, with
Yep.
standing up tall, with no apologies, not "I'm sorry, but." No. And so we'll work really hard on the delivery, right? The
Mhm.
delivery of the potentially tough conversation, asking for a raise, whatever it might be. We'll kind of practice that and I'll be like, speak like a man, but you can still have the heart of a woman. So that's just one of the lines I give them all the time.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great one. Seriously, because when the way, and even the body language, like you said, just be in your body, right?
Mhm.
There we go, with back to being in the body again, and feel that energy,
Mhm.
because you know it just comes more naturally to men that they're just pushy, or that they take up more space
Mhm.
energetically than women do.
Yeah. We just
Um,
don't think the same. I mean,
no, we're
about
much more
anything.
thoughtful and smarter, but then there's that.
Yeah.
Just
I
kidding.
mean,
Sorry, guys.
even just thinking ahead, like, I'm like, seriously, I'm like, what do you mean you're still not thinking about dinner every morning when you wake up? Like, that's that's a personal one, but I'm like, I'm always thinking about that. Maybe because
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the process and who's going to pull out the turkey. I don't really know, but like, I don't. Yeah, don't even get us started at men running the country here. What's going on here?
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that's another podcast. So you attract more women
Yeah.
to your coaching, and what is there a specific type
Mhm.
of woman that are you more business focused? It sounds like you're more entrepreneurial focused, or women in, in a certain, what is your ideal coaching client?
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Mm,
So, I am a certified high performance coach. And so, with that, I am coaching to the whole person.
mm,
Yes, we do talk about business. Generally speaking, about 75% of those that I coach are in the real estate space because that's where
okay.
I was for 25 years.
Yeah.
Those that I'm coaching in real estate, though, they're not brand new. They're making six figures to upwards of 2 million, where maybe they've got
Mhm.
multiple income streams. Maybe they're their own broker owner, whatever it might be. And then the other percentage that I coach are, I call them 100% commissioners, right? Like maybe an insurance agent, maybe they're in the lending industry, maybe they're in the title business, maybe they're a financial advisor. They're d- they're not W-2. They're like
Right.
1099, or
Mhm.
they're a very small solopreneur. That's really who my ideal client is, so that I can coach to them as a person, teach them how to have a day off, teach them, coach them on how to ask for help, how to not have guilt if they're running also families, how to create their own profit and loss statement, all of those kind of business 101 things to help them get to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think, and I notice this a lot because when I teach beginning real estate agents, they don't realize that they actually, yes, you have to hang your license somewhere because you can't just go out on your own until you've reached a certain level. Uh, Not that you'd want to anyway. But you are literally creating your own business, even though
Mhm.
you're under a specific brand.
Mhm.
You know, and you have to know all these things and you have to do all these things. And sometimes people are a little surprised by that.
Mhm.
Have you
Yeah.
ever found that?
Oh, for sure. I don't even know if people realize real estate agents are 100% commission and that they don't have a salary. And oh, by the way, they paid for that photographer to take pictures of your home and
Right.
put the sign in the yard. And I don't know how much the general public knows. And let's be honest, what the general public sees is HGTV, where they're all making $1 million and walking around in high heels and pumped up lips and who knows, or whatever, selling sunset, right? I
Right.
mean, get off HGTV. If you want to get into real estate,
Yeah.
you don't go on HGTV. That is not real.
No, it is not. And so if you if you've been watching that, don't, yeah, and you think that's a real estate career. No. And I joke about that all the time. And you know, uh I'm like, no, that's not the reality. The reality is, going into a crawl space with an inspector and wearing a hazmat suit. I mean, come on, let's get real. Every time
Yeah.
one of those guys crawls under a house, and I'm like, ew,
Yeah.
here's your
No,
check.
thanks.
Bye.
Yeah.
Don't touch me. You know, I'm like, you
Yeah,
just earned your money, buddy.
for sure.
That is really funny. Well, that's interesting. Okay, good. Good to know. And I'll be calling you about that profit and loss statement. Um, I'm not a numbers person. I'll be honest with you. I'm an idea gal. I'm a, that kind of entrepreneur. But yes, the money and the
Yeah,
balancing
I've
all of that
I've
stuff
forced
is,
myself to be okay with the numbers. Yeah, I've had
yeah.
to teach myself.
Well, and if you're working with people that are independent contractors, you definitely have to know,
Yeah,
what's going on. So,
yeah,
what is your so for the love of what what is sort of your cornerstone or your process, or what is your framework around that? If you don't
yeah.
mind sharing that.
No, I don't
Mm,
mind at
okay.
all. Uh, First of all, everything does start with for the love of self, and so I
Okay.
would say that that is my cornerstone. That is actually what I speak about. I speak about how you can reshape your perception to reach your potential and how to unlock your mindset superpower. And the backstory from that is, I'll be honest, I'm a high D and I'm a doer. Like I just go, right? That's my
Mhm.
natural. My natural, I'm a quick start as well. And when I started For the Love of January of 2023, one of the things I decided to do, because all those who are smarter than me said that I needed to journal and get my mindset right. And I had always been an consistent journaler. Whether it was I read Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning and I did his savers, or I got
Yeah.
Brendan Burchard's journal. I mean, Oprah's journal, whatever. I have the journals. I love the smell of a new book and school supplies and yeah, just bring it, right? A new gel
Yeah.
pen, right?
Yeah.
But I would just like do it a week and then I wouldn't. Then I would do it a week and I wouldn't. But I committed. I was like, girl, I chose the word of my year. I choose a word of the year every year. I chose the
Nice.
word confidence. And I said, I need to not just externally show up confidently. I also need to internally. And so I started with this dollar little notebook and I was journaling every day. These 3 journal prompts I stole from a podcast. I don't really know. But I was like, I'm going to do it every morning. I'm going to do it every morning. They say that I have to work on my brain and the wiring and I have to believe and I got to go make money
Mhm.
and I got to build this business and I got to believe in it. What had happened, Sue, is I was about 3 weeks in and a girlfriend had texted me um, and said, "Hey, Kim, I'm looking to create a new habit, and I would like somebody to hold me accountable to the belief that I have in myself." I said, "Really? Why don't we do this? Let's journal. I'm doing it anyway, and they say it's going to work, and we'll send each other pictures and we'll hold each other accountable." I said, "Let's do this thing." She's like, "Awesome." My friend Cindy was diagnosed with ALS in 2020.
Ugh, it's
It
harsh.
is
I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
It is 2025. By all accounts, she should not be alive today, but she is. She
Wow.
also is choosing to live and she's choosing to do unconventional, out of the
Mhm.
box, not covered under insurance. We have fundraisers for all the
Yeah.
time stuff, right? But when she sends me her journal entries, she actually looks at an iPad with her eyes and she types them. She's fully in a wheelchair.
Mm.
And then she texts them to me. But here's what happened. Yes, so there was that accountability piece for me with her, but also when I would speak, I would share her story. And I was like, it's actually working. Like she is literally reshaping the perception she has of herself
Mhm.
in order to change the reality of how she feels to hit her full potential. That's how my PRP model was built. It's perception, reality, potential.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's how
Gotcha.
For the Love of Self was born because I started sharing her story and unsolicited, people would send me pictures of their journal entries.
I love that. It's like a
And
little
then,
movement.
yeah, it was like a little
Yeah.
movement. So that's where we start. We start
Mhm.
with that. And there is a pragmatic part at the beginning where we're actually identifying your big rocks. I'm teaching everybody how to time block them. Little tricks. I have little time tricks that I do with timers and all these certain things.
Mhm.
But then there's the daily flow of the mindset where I give you, get your mindset right in 5 minutes. Like if I was going to write a journal, we're going to do this. We're not doing this for 50 minutes. It's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then there's a slowdown. And so that's where we start. That's the foundation. And then we build out from there, and we visit all of the areas of your life, from your physical health to your mental, to your spirituality, to your adventures, hobbies, and financial, and your spouse and you, because all those pieces as a high performer, when you're living a high performance life, all those pieces are tied together. And
Mhm.
that's what we
Absolutely.
do in our coaching and our lessons.
That's great. Yeah, so it is the whole thing. It's
The
because 'cause we're
whole
not just
shebang.
one thing. We're not just one thing.
Right.
We're not just one piece.
Yep.
We are many pieces, and we're always doing many things, supporting many people, showing up for this, showing up for that, or not showing up at all and doing something else. So, yeah, no, that I really like that, and I'm so sorry to hear about your friend because I do have, I you have lost people or someone, with
Yeah.
ALS, and it's not pretty. It's not
No,
at
and
all. There's not it's just
I
yeah, it's
mean,
amazing.
she's like a miracle. Like
Yeah.
her and her husband, and luckily with her husband's support, because you'd have to have that, like, unbelievable story.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Well, my heart goes out to her and her family. So, um, well, thank you for that. I love that. And everything does begin with self because you have to be grounded, you have to be centered, you have to be coming from a place of being centered and grounded and in your body to be able to then look around and be curious and build the next thing. And if you're constantly just going from one thing to the next, you don't, like you said, well, like we said earlier, we're not experiencing any one thing. We're just,
mhm.
oh, check, 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 check. i'm not
Yep.
i'm not a list maker, but some people are big list makers, and and I get it. And but I've just never been. I'm like, I'm gonna put this on a list just so I can check it off.
Yeah, that's the dopamine hit. That's why we make lists. Ding!
Right, right,
It's like a
right.
Skittle without the calories, because I just checked it off my list.
Exactly. I've never gotten the pleasure out of that. I just kinda do it, and I'm like, "Oh, all right, whatever, on to the next thing." So, it's good, though. I'm not the most organized person, but I do manage to get stuff done, and there's
Yeah,
that. I
you
don't know
do.
how I
You
do
get
it.
a lot done. Yes, you
I
do.
do. I do. And I was interesting because you said you're a high D, and that's
Mhm.
what chart is that? What is
That's the
the
disc. So,
Alright, the DISC
the
assessment, right.
DISC, so disc
Yeah.
is the driver, the doer, right? The I is the social, the S is they like stability and structure.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I'm an I somewhere in there. I don't know. I
C
can't
is
remember.
consistency,
That's
and,
not me.
I married my opposite. He was a firefighter, so he
Perfect.
was a rule follower,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and
that's not me
always
either.
could predict what could go wrong, and I'm more like, "What? Who cares? Let's just go. Who cares if
Yeah,
there's a no U-turn sign? Let's just do
yeah. He's like, "No, no, no."
it."
It was funny, I was out on this is just like you're talking about rule following. I was on a walk today with my dog, and, somebody in the neighborhood is a sheriff, and they were pulling out of their driveway, and they were parking by the curb, and I noticed that they parked right by the fire hydrant, and I'm like, "I'm gonna give it to her when she gets out of her car." So, she got out of the car, and I go, "You better be careful about that because somebody's gonna give you a ticket."
Yeah.
She was laughing. She's like, the sheriff vehicle parked in front of the fire plug. So anyway, I don't know why I talked about that, but so okay, where are we? Where are we? I just like, oh, squirrel. Sorry.
Yeah. The entrepreneurial ADHD, we all have it. Yep.
Yes,
Mhm.
we do. I'm glad you appreciate that
Oh,
because it's
whether we've
just
been diagnosed or not. Every entrepreneurial person, 100% commissioner that I coach,
yeah.
we've got it going on all the time.
Well, that's a good thing. Do you think that people that are drawn towards entrepreneurship and are
Yeah.
undiagnosed I mean,
Yes.
but it's a certain personality, right? It's a certain
Yes. Yes.
type.
Yes, but it is also a gift. So, but it's learning how to tame the gift, right? It's a gift to
Mhm.
be able to quickly shift. It's a gift to be always thinking ahead. It's a gift to have ideas. It's, these are all things we need as entrepreneurs and small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
The creation, the creative part, all of that. It's just sometimes, though, we can naturally start a whole lot of stuff and not finish it. So we do coach around,
I don't know nothing about
you
that.
know, I would say that, and I think too, as entrepreneurs, we don't. Sometimes we make changes to a system or a tool or whatever before we've actually given it enough time.
Yeah.
Things take longer than what we think. And so we work really hard on quarterly focuses, right? Like we're setting a business plan and we'll talk about, okay, what are your 3 focuses going to be, or your 3 lead generation levers? Because we have to have leads in a business in order to close business. But then what we do is we'll set goals on, okay, what is your quarterly focus?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just do this for a quarter? Can we, like, even if you were going to choose, let's say, social media, first of all, we're going to choose one platform because they're
Mm-hmm.
all different. We're going to examine what makes sense based on your business. And then we're going to concentrate on that one platform for at least a quarter. We probably need more when we're talking about social media, but we're
Right.
only going to study that. And here's the other thing it does, Sue. Oh, this may be the biggest gift everybody gets from our time together.
Yay.
When we do that, we know we can now say no. Because as entrepreneurs, we don't always know what to say no to. And when we're really
Mm-hmm.
thinking like a big business, it's why a large business, a corporation, can say, when somebody approaches them about a donation, and they can say, ooh, that's not in my budget this year, or ooh, come back fourth quarter. I've said that more this year than ever because this is a
Mm.
new thing that I put in place. I've been able to say, ooh, I like that idea. Can we talk about that fourth quarter? Circle back
Yeah.
around with me. Gives you
Or that
permission
just
to say
doesn't
no.
f yeah, or that just doesn't fit our values or our mission or our whatever. So, yeah, that is being able to say no and feel okay about it,
Yep.
because if you do that, it'll distract or it'll take away
Mhm.
from what you should be
Mhm.
saying yes
Mhm.
to. Is that what I
Yeah.
understand? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
good one. And just gonna have a little side note again because I can't help myself. When you were talking initially, you talked about like you're a doer, you're a D, you're like do 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 do. So, have you ever explored human design? The
No, but I feel like you've talked about this before.
I have on
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
podcasts as a guest and as a host. It's fascinating because it's similar like the disc, but it's got a different vibe to it.
Because
So
I've
it's a
taken
little
like
bit.
strength finders and Kobe and
It's not just that. It's not
okay.
like you put your it's literally has to do with what you were born into and what your type is based on the 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 day, the time, the place that you were born. So it's a
Oh
little
my.
astrology based. It's a
Yeah.
little quantum based. It's really fascinating. So we all have different types. Now you sounded like, and I have no idea, whatever, but I'll give you it's write down mybodygraph.com. You
Okay.
can go on the website, you put in your date of birth, your time of birth, and your place of birth.
Okay.
Um, and then it'll give you what type you are. And it'll be kind of interesting because
Oh,
I've
I love this
always
stuff.
operated I thought I was a generator, right? And generators, there's 2 types, manifesting generators and generators that literally generate their own energy. Okay, so they are the doers, they are the worker bees, they are the engines, so to speak. I always did that, but it always sucked the life out of me. And I'm like, I just and also, being in sales and being in that type of an environment, everybody's like, you got to do this, cold call until you're blue in the face, push, 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 sell, 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 rah, 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 right? All of that. I'm like, this doesn't feel right to me. It just never did, never felt right. So I did this. I figured out what type I was, and I initially I put in my birth date wrong. Instead of month, day, year, I put in day, month, year, whatever it was. I put a little
The
backwards.
question is,
It's
did
more
you
that
come out younger?
no, I didn't come out any younger. That's for sure. I did come out like, oh yeah, see, I told you I was a manifesting generator. Blah. And then I was like, oh shoot, I put my birthday in wrong. Actually, I am a projector. And as a projector, I do not have, and you look at it when you look at your body graph, I do not have my own energy source. So I work well when I'm paired with someone who is a generator or a manifesting generator, where I can work off their energy. The other thing about projectors is that they need to wait to be invited. And then we are the guides, we are the leaders, we are the, you know, we, I have to wait for you to say, Sue, what do you think about this? Okay, well, here now that you've asked, you know. So it's really interesting that, and it makes a lot of sense because I was operating in an environment that did not suit me. And I was trying to put myself, a square
Yeah.
peg, into a round hole. And
Yeah.
it never really fit. I always got stuff done, but it was at what cost, right?
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. Look it up and then get
Oh,
back to me and
I
let me know
will. Like,
what type you are, because
girlfriend.
it's different than a disc or an
Yeah.
assessment based on questions. It literally is your human design.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating stuff. I
I'm
love it.
totally gonna do that and add that to my binder, like,
Yeah.
and read it and process it.
Yeah.
That was actually
Oh,
one of the
absolutely.
things I did during my forced slowdown is I I actually read my assessments and I processed them and I got to know myself because usually I'd be like, "Yeah, I know I'm that."
Right.
But, you know, the Enneagram and the Strength Finders and the DISC, and I did another one through Dave Ramsey. Like, I read them. I was like, "Okay, where am I going and what am I doing? I'm gonna
Right.
do this one too because that's
It's
I
interesting
love
because
that.
it is at your core. It's your core
Yeah,
of your being. So check it out.
thank you.
All right. Well, I think that's good. I wanted to talk about it because you mentioned something a couple times, and I was like, okay, but I'd love to know
Yeah,
what human design people are, because, and it's kind of interesting too. You can have your clients do that as well, because
yeah,
then that way they might be able to tailor your systems and
correct.
your
Yeah,
to
I
meet
I
their
have them
own
all do the
needs.
Strength Finders one right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
invest in them and we get that one and then we talk through it. And so
Yeah.
that's also one of my favorite ones too. So,
Cool, cool. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I'm fascinated by you and all of the paths that we've taken that are very similar. And if people are inspired by the work that you're doing and are, your demographic, or just curious and want to work with you, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
yes, I've got some freebies. So, I would
Yay!
first go to Flow Self, FLO, like for love of, flowself.com. You can get the journal download. Once you get that, you'll probably be invited to a little micro course. So, every month I have a free online micro course that goes with it. So, I can teach you how to use it. All that is free. And then for any working moms out there, if you find me on Instagram, which is just Kim Rogne, Kimrogne, DM me the words working mom, working mom, and I will send you my CEO home system that is specifically for working moms. It's so you can CEO your home life.
Oh,
And then
nice.
all things just Kim Rogne. You go to kimrogne.com and find me there.
Love it. All right, cool. Well, we'll put all of that in the show notes. I really appreciate that. Kim, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for being on. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. I love that I'm sorry that you had to break your whole leg to to slow down, but look where it's led you. So that's fantastic. Um, and for anyone out there who is listening and is inspired by Kim's work, please get in touch with Kim. And if you know somebody else who might benefit from our conversation today, please share it with a friend, and then rate the podcast, review in the podcast, and like and subscribe, or whatever the heck you do out there. I really would appreciate it. And I appreciate you for listening to Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. And I will see you next week.